Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayesha. I am a local chef, and I am currently living in Oakland. I am doing a live cooking demo of a CSA box from Tilth. So, the CSA box that I got today had kale in there, there's some chard in there, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a nice quick meal with some of the ingredients from the CSA box. Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Ayesha. I am a chef that lives out here in the Bay Area, and I'm going to be doing a cooking sample of something from the CSA box. So let me show y'all what I have so far. So right now I have some kale in here. I also have some chard. Hello. All right. And then here I went ahead and cut up some of the stems. Okay, so these are stems from the chard and also stems from the kale. So I like to try to use the vegetables from end to end. So I went ahead and cut these up so we can make sure that we get these cooked up also. All right. And then in this recipe, I'm also going to have some garlic, which I already cut up here. You don't have to chop it super fine. I just did some like nice slices of garlic. All right. And then I also have some onions. This is a yellow onion. You can use whatever kind of onions you want. A yellow versus this is a white onion. So a white onion is a more milder taste, and the yellow onion is going to give you a bit more sweetness. So I'm using yellow because that's what I had in the house. And we're also going to be incorporating beans in this. So this is going to be like a beans and green dish, but we're going to go ahead and start off with the produce. All right. Okay, y'all. So what I'm going to start with is getting the pan hot. And you can use whatever pan. I have this like little rondo with like raised sides. This allows you to fit like more food in there. But if you just have a regular saute pan, that's fine too. I also have some olive oil here. And so I'm going to go ahead and put my olive oil in the pan and let that get heated up. And now with these beans, the kind of beans that I got these are cannellini beans. So these are a nice like white bean. I really like these beans because they're creamy, they have a really nice texture, and then you also have your carbs in here, but then you also get a good amount of protein too. So with this dish that I'm about to show you, this is going to be pretty much just like a vegan dish, but you can always like spice it up with, if you want to add salmon, some sort of fish, or if you want to put smoked turkey in there, you can add those type of things to help increase the flavor. Now I am using canned beans. You can go ahead and soak your beans overnight if that's what you like to do, but just for the purposes of this demo, I want to show you how easy it is to put together a nice delicious meal. All right, so while that pan is heating up, I'm just going to go ahead and pour my beans into a little pot here, and I'm going to let those get warmed up while we start to saute the other ingredients. So as my beans are coming to like a good temperature, I'm also going to put a little bit of salt in there because they're coming straight from the can, so they might not have that much flavor. Okay. All right. So this pan is nice and hot, and so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to start with the onions. Put those straight in the pan. Now, anytime you're using onions and garlic, well, it's suggested that you flavor along the way, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start to add some salt in here as these onions are cooking down. And so I'm not trying to get a lot of color on this. I just want these to get a little wilted so they're not like super, so the texture is not too hard. So just want to get them cooked down a little bit. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions. I'm here to answer them. And for anybody that just came in and is just joining, my name is Ayesha. I am doing a live cooking demo of a CSA box from Tilth. Show y'all how simple this is. Okay, so I'm letting those get cooked down. Now I wanted to show you all, so when you get the chard in the store, or if you were to get kale in the store, they come with these. I just cut this off. It comes with these stems. It's attached to the chard. So usually in the restaurants, what we'll do is we'll just cut the stems off and then we'll just chop them up really nicely. So that will allow you to use the entire product rather than feeling like you can only use the leaves. It also gives a really nice texture as well. So that's a good thing. All right. Okay, so we got these onions going. The next thing I'm gonna do is add this. And they also have like a lot of like color. Look at this. So we're gonna add the chard, and we got the kale going right in there. All right. Boom. Okay. Now I'm gonna add just a little more olive oil. I'm gonna show you all, just so we can see. You don't have to have a ton of olive oil, just enough to kind of coat the bottom of the pan. And each time you add salt, it's also going to release moisture. So that will prevent you from having to use like too much olive oil. All right, so since we just added those in, I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. Now you can add pepper to this too, but I'm also going to be doing red pepper flakes at the end of this, so I'm not going to be utilizing the pepper in this recipe, but you can. All right. So I'm just letting those get cooked down. And as it's cooking down, let me go ahead and add some salt to the beans. One of the things that they teach you in culinary school, besides flavoring along the way, is that you're tasting along the way. So you're not surprised by what your product tastes like at the end. So it's best to kind of taste along the way, and then you're able to season it to your perfection, because we all have different types of like flavor, how we perceive flavor. Some people might think something's too salty versus not salty enough. So tasting along the way will definitely help you with that. I'm gonna grab my spoon here. All right. So first I'm just gonna come through here. Now don't be surprised if you cook these and you start to see some of the color from the Swiss chard stems kind of leak out. It does a little bit of, it kind of leaks out the red that's in the ingredient, and that's fine. But I'm gonna try this. Okay. So let me show you where we are here. These are still not really cooked enough for me, so I'm gonna let this cook a little bit more. I want it to get a little more wilty. Now, the beans and greens dish is a very popular dish. It's used in a lot of different cultures. There's a warm green salad that you can have in New Orleans. You can have beans and greens from Italy. There's a lot of variations of this. Some people might do greens and rice, but today we are doing beans and greens. All right. Another thing I wanted to mention is, if you're familiar with like collards and things like that, some of you may also cook them, do like a long cooking with like smoked turkey and water, and I love collard greens that way. But it's also good to know that you can just chop up your greens and saute them, by adding just a little bit of flavor. So they don't always need to be cooked long unless you'd like to. But if you're low on time and you still want a delicious meal, we can saute those babies up and we're all good. All right. Okay, so let me show you. We're getting really nice here. These are getting really nice. This is exactly what I like it to look like. So I'm just gonna taste these beans to see where we are. Okay, so these beans actually had a bit of flavor to them already, so I'm not gonna add too much more. But what I probably will do is once we incorporate the beans and the greens, then I will add more salt, because at that point I'm gonna add acid and other things to kind of round out the dish. All right? Okay. So now that I've gotten these where I want them, a little wilty, not too wilty, still, like I said in the beginning, still gonna have a little bit of crunch, and just look how beautiful this is. Now the CSA box that I am working out of today, it also did have bok choy, which I was going to put the bok choy in. I decided not to, but I just want to give you that heads up that when you decide to mix greens together and cook them all together, the flavor becomes very like harmonious. So if I were to add the bok choy in there, it would just be another level of flavor. It wouldn't be like too bitter. So don't be afraid to kind of put all your greens together, especially if you just have them in the crisper, in the refrigerator or something like that. Just throw them together, just so you don't have to waste them, all right? All right, the last thing here I'm gonna add is the garlic. Put that straight in the pan. And so usually I add garlic towards the end because I want the garlic to kind of stand up front. I don't want to cook the garlic too long to where it almost becomes caramelized, which is fine, you can do that. But once you start to cook the garlic more, the garlic's gonna get a bit sweeter. And so I really just wanna keep that garlic flavor intact. Right on, thank you, remain creative, that's right. All right, so because I did add a little bit more product, I'm gonna put a little bit more olive oil. All right, now is the time for the greens. So this is where we really start building flavor. With this recipe, I would definitely recommend that you use some sort of acid. I'm using lemons because lemons are in season, and I just love the flavor that lemons give. But if you don't have lemons, say if you had red wine vinegar, balsamic vinegar would be a really good product to use. But I'm using lemons today. All right, so now I'm adding a little bit more olive oil, and I'm gonna go straight in here. With these, let's show you here. With the chard, I just ripped them off the stem, right? I just put them into nice small pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce all of this. And for those of you that have cooked greens before, you know that these are going to wilt. So even though this looks like a nice big pan of greens, as the steam and the heat gets to them, it's gonna slowly wilt down. Now, we layered the stems and the onion and the garlic with flavor as far as just making sure that it was salted. Save this video, please. Yes, we will be saving the video. We will make sure to get it up on the site, and also making sure that we give you all this recipe. All right. So now the next thing that I want to do is, because even though we just flavored everything that's in the pan, you know, the greens are gonna come in here just regular without flavor. So this is where we talk about layering flavor in the kitchen, okay? Now, do whatever you want with this. You know, you can put some garlic powder in here, as I said, some pepper. You know, if you want to do Lawry's, you can do that too. I tend to stick on the simpler side of things unless I'm doing like a gumbo or something like that. So also when you use like minimal seasonings, in some instances, you're able to really taste the flavor of what you're cooking. You know, so we want to be able to taste these greens, like what they taste like during the season. So I don't want to completely overwhelm them with just whatever is in my pantry. Turn this down a bit. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I'm coming in here. Let me just show y'all. And I'm just gonna kind of take these tongs, just twist it around. I don't have to do much because the heat is taking care of all this for me. You see, it's just like wilting it down. This is a great time to add some salt. Boom, boom. All right. Okay. So this looks very hearty already. I'm not going to wilt it down too much. And it smells delicious. All right. So this is the part where the greens are just not completely wilted, but just getting wilted. And I'm going to go ahead and add in the acid, which for me is going to be the lemon juice. All right. So I always use fresh lemon juice. It's just straight from the lemon. I'm not really a fan too much of using a bottled lemon juice, but if that's what you got, that's what you got to use. And it'll still be good. It just tends to not taste so much like lemon. Whatever else they put in there to make it like last on the shelf is more than just lemon juice, you know. Okay, so I'm just coming through here. I'm starting off with a half a lemon. And earlier before I got on here, I took the seeds out. Okay. Let me show you this beauty. All right. Actually, let me get a spoon. That might be better so I can show y'all. Okay. So I just want to show you how the garlic starts to get cooked down. So it gets like really nice. Oop. Okay, so you should see a little bit of browning in there. All right, now another thing I just wanted to mention. Now, if you feel like, you know, some people don't like to use a lot of olive oil, You can use minimal olive oil, and then you can use water to help you wilt these greens. So if you're being cautious about that, then just put a little bit of water in there, but make sure you continue to taste, because you know when you add water it starts to dilute things and it might not taste the way that you had it when you know previously. Excuse me, somebody's asking a question. But yeah, so you can use water. Somebody said, can you explain the need of an acid ingredient again, please? Yes. Okay, so acid is a good way to not make your dish one note, you know? So let's do an example. So like, say if you did like fish and chips. Okay, so fish and chips is a really nice hearty dish where the fish is like really battered, and then you have your nice like tartar sauce. But in that tartar sauce, sometimes you might have like lemon. So lemon juice goes in things like tartar sauce. Lemon juice also goes in things like mayonnaise. And that helps to round things out so it's not just one note. So you'll have your nice creamy tartar sauce, but then you put a little bit of lemon on your fish, and all of a sudden, you know, the sky opens up. So it's that thing that you need to make sure that your dish is rounded and it's not just tasting like a really good seasoned dish, if that makes sense. You know, it's not just salt, pepper, Lawry's. You know, you squeeze a little bit of acid in there, and then it just helps to get the dish more rounded. So because we're also going to be adding beans to this, you know, I didn't want just one note. Let me taste this, one moment. Oh, this is really good. This needs more salt and more lemon. You're welcome. All right, so I'm adding more and more lemon here. And as I said, if you don't have lemon juice, you know, do a red wine vinegar. You could do a champagne vinegar, which is one of my favorite. Okay. Okay, so this is a good place for me to stop before I actually add the beans. So I'm going to show y'all again what we're looking like here. It's looking nice and beautiful, just wilted, but not overly done. You see, there's still a little bit of texture in there. All right. So as I was saying that these beans are pretty seasoned. So I'm just going to go ahead and add these beans into my greens. Okay. And for the sake of y'all seeing this, I'm going to try to bring it up here. So I just added these cannellini beans, and so now I'm just mixing this around. Okay. Now, once you add the beans, like I said before, we're going to flavor every single step of the way. Somebody says, have acid that can cook raw fish right. Yes, that's a good point. So, okay, so they're bringing up something else that I'm going to answer. So, if you have heard of like ceviche, you know, usually ceviche is done with some sort of acid. So they'll take like really fresh fish, and then they'll put acid like lemon juice or lime juice, and that helps to firm up the fish. Now, it's not cooking in the way of you know, on the stove, but it does allow the fish to be safe enough to eat. So yes, that is a very good point. Okay, so now this is the end. What I was going to say about adding the beans is now I'm adding this starch. You know, there's a lot of starchiness here. So starch tends to kind of dull a flavor if it's not already seasoned. And this is one of the reasons why we want to make sure that we season the beans separately. So then when we get in here, when they're introduced, we don't have to season it too much more. So I'm just going to taste this here. Then we're going to plate it up, and I'll show you what this looks like. But let's taste this. Oh, yeah. Yes. All right. Now, this is seasoned to my perfection. You know, you might have a different perfection, but seasoned to mine. So I'm going to take a little bit of red pepper flakes, because the heat, that's another thing that rounds a dish out. Now, if you don't want heat, that's fine. But a little heat goes a long way, a very long way. Someone said, let me get some, please. I'm teaching you how to make it so we can all get some. All right, here we are. Okay, y'all. I'm very excited for y'all because you can see how simple this dish came together. And it is delicious, and it's very filling. And it's vegan, and not because I meant for it to be, but, you know, that's what the ingredients were. So I'm like, I'm not going to veer too far off from the CSA box. I want to Keep it tight. All right, so I'm going to actually plate this. Plate it over here and show you all what we're working with here. Okay, so in a lot of like California cuisine, California fresh cuisine, I'm sure that you all have seen like olive oil even just being used as a topping. You know, I used to work at this restaurant where they just put olive oil on everything, even on ice cream, because it was an Italian restaurant. So if you'd like, you can always end this with like putting a little olive oil on top. But of course, if you are holding back on the olive oil, then maybe not so much for you. All right. So I'm just going to show you how this looks. This is a plate for a couple of people, but I will bring this up to the camera so I can show you what we have here. And once again, I'm going to encourage you to, you know, play around with this dish. Put some fish on top of it, something, you know. Somebody's asking what kind of beans are being used. The beans are cannellini beans. Some of my favorite beans because they're nice and creamy. But let's just look at this finished product. Whoa, here we go. So this is just, it's super filling. It's very straightforward. But the key to this is you definitely want to make sure that you're layering flavor as you go along. So don't forget, we did in the beginning, we had our chard, we had our garlic, we had our onions, we added salt to that. And then the next thing, we added salt again. So as people that are like home cooks, if you're not a professional cook, you might feel like, oh, this is too much salt, but that's exactly why you taste along the way. It feels like you're adding a lot of salt, but you just got to continue to taste it. So I'm about to go ahead and taste this. It seems cool enough, maybe. Yes, I cannot wait for you guys to try this. I cannot wait for you all to try this. So that is our beans and greens today from Urban Tilth CSA box. I really hope you try it. And if you're interested in joining the CSA program, definitely make sure that you hit the link in their bio. And thank you all so much for joining me today. This was great. And thank you for your questions. Once again, my name is Ayesha, and I hope you all have a good afternoon. Bye.